3.9, and as we add some caster back into the car, that will also take away some more of that. So that's what we're going to do now. We are going to add an 1/8 inch of shims to the front and the back. Now, let me show you something. Let's go to the car.
Powered by your old shoe.
All right, so let's talk about this upper control arm. Now, you need to understand is how we've just created that camber. And we've created that camber. Let's turn it this way. This is the tire. My hand's the tire. We'll go this way. Okay, what we've done is if we were up and down, we've pushed out the lower control arm. And that's what's creating our 4.5 degrees of camber. Now we're going to add shims to the upper control arm, which is going to take some of that camber away. So here's the pro in doing that. When we add shims to the upper control arms, because we have such a extreme camber setting right now, is that we can make quick track adjustments by removing shims to get that camber back. So I want to add a 1/8 of an inch of shims to the upper control arm, which is going to reduce our camber overall. And by doing that, I am reducing the camber, and then we're going to take a measurement, and then we're probably at that point going to add some caster and see how much camber that caster takes away. But what I'm going to do is the shims, as we saw on that chart I showed you a little bit ago, is that we have 16th inch shims, we have 32nd inch shims, and we have 1/8 inch shims. We are shooting for an overall 1/8 inch. However, to make track adjustments, we don't want to use an 1/8 inch shim because we're going to be removing a complete 1/8 of an inch to get that camber back. And we know that it's essentially going to add 0.6 degrees of camber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 1/16 and 2/32 to create my 1/8. And then that's going to allow me to take one of these out to give myself, what, 0.1, I think it was 0.18 back. And if I need to add a little bit more, I can take one more out. And if I need to add all of it back, I can take out the full 1/8, or I can take out the 16th and leave the 2/32 in there and then take out a 16th and a 32nd. So you get the point. By using the upper control arms to create your final camber setting, you can do track adjustments a lot easier. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 2/32 and 1/16 to all 4 of the upper control arm locations on both sides. And I'll show you how I do that. And this is where the AMT stud kit comes into be very handy. So you can see there that the upper control arm falls away from the frame. And you can also kind of see here is these plates are what I was talking about, got welded in. And I don't necessarily know if these plates are proper, let's just put it that way. And so because of that, I'm not completely symmetrical. Not saying that yours will be, but I know for a fact mine isn't. So we need to get 4 of the 38 because we're going to do 2 in the front, 2 in the back of the front, and then 1 of the 16s. So now I've got 1 of the 16ths, 2 of the 32nds. We put these together and we slide it in here, and now we've got an 1/8 inch shim, which should take away about a 0.6 degrees of camber. So I am going to do this for the next one. And I'm putting the small ones in the front, big one in the back. It doesn't really matter, whatever you want to do. All right, so I'm tighten these down. Now, when you tighten these down, I'm using a tool. If you use hand tools, fine, whatever. But you have to hold these or they could just fall. All right, so we have added them there. I need to add them here, and then we need to take a measurement. But let's stop here for a second. Also, If I don't add any here, effectively what we've also done is we've added caster. So to add caster, you can add shims to the front, which shifts your control arm this way and essentially pushes your upper ball joint back, so it creates positive camber. So again, if you add them here, then it will add yourself caster. But right now we're worried about camber. We'll come back to caster in a minute. So I'm going to add another 16th and a 32nd here. I'm going to do that to both sides, and then we're going to take some measurements. All right, so we've got that 1/8 inch of shims in there. Didn't take away quite as much as I was hoping it would. We don't really have much recourse here because we went from S2 to S1, and that's the next one in line. So we have no choice but to adjust it via the top, or we just don't have all that we might want. So right now we are at 4.10 here, and we are at 3.6 or 3.88 on the other side. So what that means is we lost 0.52 on the passenger side, and we lost 0.42 on the driver's side. Again, you know, having the drop spindles and also those welded in plates, this is pretty normal for me to see. So what I'm going to do now is measure our caster. So let's see what our caster comes out to be. Now, for our caster, there's two ways to do it. There is, well, there's three ways to do it. But for our cars, if we do a half a turn, that is usually gets us into our factor of 2.62 multiplier. So we do a 10-degree sweep, which is a half turn. So basically, if you're, for my steering wheel, it's really easy because it's like that oval steering wheel. So, and then what we do is, so always go left first, or let me rephrase that, always go outside first. So we are going to turn the wheel 180 degrees. So for me, it's easy. I go here. Now you come back here and you would write down this number. So you would take a 2.72. I can zero this out. This is going to be zero based off of that. If I push this back, I'm going to go right back to the other setting because it's internally, but this is zeroed out to this here. So by doing this, what I can do now is I can sweep it back to the right. Most gauges will do this. Longacre doesn't that easily. And then I will go back 180 degrees so that the wheel is now up. That should be 20 degree sweep, and we've got 2.54. So we would take 2.54 and then we would times that by 2.62, and that would become our caster. Let me take a measurement for the other side. Now we are already pointed to the outside on this side. I will reset this gauge to be 0 on this axis. I will come back over. I will turn this out, well, in, so that's straight. And now this is 10 degrees, and I will take whatever this number is, multiply it by 2.62. So we've got 2.66. Which is really close, but not close enough. 2.66 times 2.62. So let me do math. All right, so math comes out to be 6.65 and 6.97. Notice I didn't do long math because I used my calculator. Anyways, so I mean, that's not very much caster, and we could definitely get more out of it. And by doing that, what we will also do is we will reduce our camber. So as we reduce, so you'll see here, we've got 4 degrees, 4.08 degrees, well, and then we added the 1/8 inch of shim to get the 408, and then this is 368. That's why, or 3.88, that's why we have more caster, is because we have less camber. And so here we have less or more camber and less caster. So we're going to add a couple shims to the front here. We're going to add some shims here, and then that's going to change our caster, and also it's going to reduce our camber. But since we don't want to reduce too much of this one, what I'm going to do is we will add a 32nd to the front of the passenger side, and then we are going to add a 16th to the front of the driver's side. So let me get that done, and we will go from there and see what we get. All right, so good results there. So by mixing up what you do on both sides changes things. So now you'll see that I've got 3.86 degrees on this side. It was 3.82, but as the car's probably settling, I mean, that's not something to cry over. But then we go to this side and we have 3.84. And it just went to 3.82. Anyways, the idea is that we are pretty much identical to each other, and there's yeah, 3.86, 3.84. So what we could do if we want to, we'll change this to 3.86 and 3.84. And now we have also added more camber, or excuse me, more caster into the car a little bit. I'm gonna guess about 7.5, somewhere around there. Let's do those two sweeps real quick. We'll do that together. So we are going to go out first, and then we will reset the gauge to 0. And then we will go 360 to here, and we have 2.6. So we actually lost a little bit. I guess that makes sense. So we're going to be a little under now. So we are at 2.6. And, oh, this side is 2.6. Pretty sure the other side is probably going to be the same. But we gained some on the driver's side. So we will reset this to 0. And we will go this way. Let's see what it says now. $2.7. That was 6.6 and 2.7. Times 2.62 times 2.62. Be right back. All right, so those final numbers came in at 6.81 degrees of caster in the front left and 7.07 in the right side, passenger side. So we are split by 0.27, and that's not going to be so much I can do about that because of the those plates. Again, that's fine. I'm close enough. There's also other ways that you can calculate your caster, which would probably show I have a little bit more caster, and that's by going 15 degrees, and then you would multiply that by 20, and then if you go 20 degrees, you would multiply that by 1.5, and then that would give you even a different reading. Longacre's gauge is set up to do a 15 degrees left and right, and it will tell you what it is, which is basically a multiplication of 20, or excuse me, of 2, and then based off of our gear or our steering ratio of 16.1, they say that a 10 degree left and a 10 degree right for 20 degrees total. Multiply that by 2.62, and that gets you what our caster is. So all I've got to do now is go back and set my toe, and that'll be done. So let me get the toe set. You've seen me do it a couple times. The only thing that I'm going to show you now is I'm going to change my toe a little bit, and it most likely will change the camber slightly because I'm not changing the toe enough to where it's going to be too crazy that it's not going to affect the camber, but the camber will be affected a little bit by the toe, and in turn the caster will be affected. So essentially, if I have less toe, I will create caster. So by adding the 2 millimeters of toe, it should give me, I don't know, 0.05 caster, whatever. So let me get the toe set, and we will just do one last check, and we will be done. All right, so that's it. That is the end of this series. We ended at 3.84, 3.82, and we were within 0.2 caster, which was about 7 and 6.8-ish, somewhere around there on both sides. Now, there's other ways we can do that, and that's the thing to keep in mind. If I want to get more caster, and I can also take away some shims back here, which will take some camber and give me some more caster. So if I decide that I want to have less camber for whatever reason, I'm heating up the inside a little bit more than the outside, I could take that away. If I want to have more caster, then I can do that, or if I feel like I'm having trouble turning the wheel. We have power steering. We shouldn't have a problem. I think that we're going to be fine where we are. This is just the nature of my setup and limitations that I have now. So I'm not telling you what your alignment specs need to be. These are what my alignment spec needs to be. You need to talk to whoever did your suspension, whatever tires you're running, whatever the car is doing on the track. That's how you need to base your alignment settings on. I have a lot of data. As you've seen from the other videos that I've posted, I have a lot of time at the track, and I know what my settings need to be closely. And I also check my tire temperatures as quickly as possible as I can when I get off of track, and gives me an idea of where things need to be there. So with that said, I'm going to end the front camber, caster, toe setting video here. This would be part 2. The next video, I'm going to move to the back of the car, and we are going to focus on camber settings and toe settings, because that's all we can really do in the back other than our bump. So anyways, thanks for watching, and if you like it, please subscribe, like, share, comment, because that's what's going to get this video out to others as well. So thanks for watching.
Powered by your old shoe.
That's kind of not. Shooter McGavin. Anyways, see ya.